Women, on the other hand, seem to be protected against the risk of heart disease by female hormones. Learned behaviors, which make up a central part of the traditional masculine gender role, may play an even larger part in men's physical health. Men are more likely to smoke, to drink alcohol, take physical risks, use weapons, have jobs that expose them to carcinogens, and work in occupations that are more hazardous. As a result of these behaviors, men are more likely than women to die from heart disease, lung cancer, bronchitis, emphysema, cirrhosis of the liver, accidents, suicide, and homicide. In other words, the masculine gender role, combined with physiological differences, can be hazardous to men's health. Some sex differences develop over time and may be strongly influenced by learned gender roles. Consider crying. All babies cry, whether they're male or female. But as they grow up, most males are taught to hold back their tears. As the saying goes, big boys don't cry. Most females, however, are taught that crying is okay and can even be used to their advantage, to get their way with other people. So boys get criticized for crying, and girls typically get reinforced for it. And lo and behold, we find a behavioral difference between the sexes. The important point here is that this and many other gender differences are entirely learned as part of the socialization process, which prepares the young to take their place in society when they're adults. So here's an instance of a physiological function, shedding tears, that comes to be influenced by social learning. How does such learning take place? From the day they are born, children grow up in a social, cultural environment that is full of messages about gender, like these advertising images. Girls and boys are dressed differently. They get different toys to play with, and they're given different chores to do around the house. They also see women and men dressing differently, behaving differently, and occupying different roles.
Play a good game. All right? Give me a hand. Give me a hand.
Dad coaches the soccer team,
Okay, who's going to win today?
while Mom cheers from the sideline.
Keep on it. Keep on it. Go, Mike. Keep going, Mikey. Yeah! All right. Woo! All right. Mike, nice playing. Good shot.
These differences in behavior are also reflected by the television and movies they watch and the books they read. Not only do children observe these gender patterns, they are also directly affected by them. Boys and girls are constantly rewarded for behaving in gender-appropriate ways and punished for gender-inappropriate responses. Such rewards and punishments are often social ones, such as praise or scolding, and they come from important people in children's lives, their teachers, parents, and peers.
What does that look like to you? It's a machine gun.
According to Gene Block of the University of California at Berkeley, these social experiences create different psychological environments for girls and boys. This affects the way children think about themselves and the world around them.
Children, it seems to me, develop then in different kinds of contexts. And the context for a little girl is more structured, it's more supervised, and it's more circumscribed, so that she's protected from experience.
Before we go, we have to get some
The parents of girls encourage the girls to stay closer to them.
quiz kit bag. Amy.
I did it.
Everything tends to focus the little girl on the house.
Stick it in the linen closet.
The chores they're given are also chores that encourage them to be in the house. The embeddedness of the girls in the family network from a very early age insulates them to some extent from experience. Boys, as they are presently socialized in this culture, are provided more opportunities for discovering, for inventing, and for actively understanding the world in which they live. He enters activities with the premise that he can make a difference, that he can create effects. Boys play outside more, they play more actively, they change the nature of their activities more, they find it more difficult to sit still. Related to activity is a sex difference in curiosity and exploratory behaviors. Boys are more curious, they want to know how things work. Males have a more extensive network of friends. However, these friends tend not to be as intimate as the friends of females. For females, interpersonal relationships appear to be more salient, more important than they are for males. And so that females have fewer friends, but more intimate, intense friendships.
In other words, we tend to give our girls roots and our boys wings. There are, of course, both positive and negative consequences to these kinds of sex differences. For men, the positive side is the freedom to leave home and family for work, the freedom to take risks, to innovate, to explore, to challenge the status quo. On the negative side, however, is the strong possibility of forming an identity tied to success in business or career, and not to feelings of personal satisfaction, or a sense of belonging to a community or a tight-knit family. Many men who are very successful complain that they have no close friends, and even feel distant from their own families. As for women, the positive side is that they are more able to express their feelings and to show their concern and caring for other people. They are freer to ask for and give help and friendship. They also take more time and effort to build a social support network of family and friends. The negative side includes constraints imposed by society and the self on intellectual development. There are also artificial limits imposed on what women are expected to achieve in many areas, such as science and technology, or ones that involve solitary activity, risk-taking, or physical strength.
And I went to the drugstore and bought some sleeping pills. Planning to take them.
In addition, a greater focus on one's feelings and moods among women seems to make them more susceptible to depression. There's also the reality of greater poverty and responsibility for child care among women who are single parents, which contributes to depression as well. And yet, even though our social experiences from childhood onward create different psychological environments for males and females, it would be a mistake to assume that they respond passively to these experiences. On the contrary, children are actively involved in shaping their own understanding of gender. Eleanor Maccabee of Stanford is an expert on gender differences. For years, she has been studying how boys and girls use gender as a basic category to understand the world around them.
By about the age of 2, the second birthday, you begin to see tendencies for children to approach others of their own sex more often. And in our own work, when we bring in pairs of young children who are not yet 3 years old, either 2 boys, 2 girls, or a mixed-sex pair, we find that the children play more actively and more comfortably when they are paired with the